Kia ora. Kia ora everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. We're just waiting to get onto live stream. Katie, it's all go. Fantastic. Righto, we're into it. Kia ora everyone. Welcome to the second iteration of the Social Sustainability Committee 2025. We welcome our spectators in the far corners over there and our attendees at the either side of the table, and acknowledge council officers on the far side over there. Rightio. So, council blessing. Kathy, do you mind reading the council blessing, please?
Thank you. As we deliberate on the issues before us, we trust that we will reflect positively on the communities we serve. Let us all seek to be effective and just, so that with courage, vision and energy, we provide positive leadership in the spirit of harmony and compassion.
Excellent, thank you, Kathy. I've also just got a little extra thing I'll read. It's called sensitive content caution. It's just something we've put in place due to some of the information that we talk about here. The Social Sustainability Committee considers matters across health, education, justice, housing, community, connectiveness and resilience. To enable full and transparent discussions across these areas, topics may be raised that could be sensitive to some viewers. We encourage meeting participants to be mindful of this when discussing these matters, and for those viewing to use their discretion. Participants within the room are welcome to choose to leave the room if a topic of a sensitive nature is discussed, and those online are able to leave the live stream and return when they are comfortable. Just a little bit of a housekeeping issue there, some topics that have been brought up in the past, but just ensuring that it's in no way censorship and there's no way limiting public discussion. Number 3 on our agenda, apologies. I have apologies from Guy Burns from the Parapara Umu Community Board and Jackie Elliott from the Otaki Community Board. Just acknowledging Janet Holbara online, our Mayor, and she's popping off at 10:30, and Sandra Fryer, Chair of the Kapiti Health Advisory Group, sent her apologies in as well. But great seeing you over in the corner over there. Looking forward to your chat. So if I could have a mover for the apologies. Move who? And all those in favour accepting those? Hey, want a seconder? I'd love a seconder. Lawrence, would you like to second that? Fantastic. Thank you for that. Thank you for the reminder. And all those in support? Aye. Okay, that's passed. Declarations of interest in relating to items on the agenda. I haven't heard any. Going once, going twice? No? Thank you. Public speaking time for items relating to the agenda. I don't have anyone registered for public speaking, although we do have deputations today, which I'm very much looking forward to, and is coming up right now. Diana Ponsford, if you care to make your way up to the table. Diana is a part of the Kapiti Health Advisory Group. Her work stream is transport. She's the lead in that space. And as we've noted in the past, we have a 5-meeting rotation for the different work groups in the Kapiti Health Advisory Group. And this month, it's the transport's turn. One thing I just would point out, since Sandra's not here, is the group with regards to access has been very active in the community promoting the polyclinic kaupapa. They've been through, I think, all the community boards now and have been holding various public meetings as well, which I've gathered has been met with quite a bit of success in that space as well. Indeed. So we look forward to that coming to the table when it comes, I think, in May. I think we might be discussing it tonight at the Paraparaumu Community Board. Dinah, the floor is yours.
Kia ora. Diana Ponsford, Transport Lead, as Martin said, Kapiti Health Advisory Group. As a consequence of Kapiti Carers closing at the end of 2024, there is an urgency to find sustainable, affordable, reliable transport for vulnerable Kapiti residents who don't drive or don't want to drive to their medical appointments at Wellington and Kenepuru Hospital. There are several options that are being investigated. Number 1, Tim Costley is in discussion with the transport team at Wellington Hospital, and there has been a suggestion that Health New Zealand may trial a 6-seater van running from Wellington Hospital to the Kapiti Health Centre. Number 2, Kim Nye from ASK has put in a proposal to Health New Zealand to increase their funding so they can offer more than just morning trips Monday to Thursday. I think this is the best option at the present time, as it's a known service and picks people up from their homes. Kim met with Health New Zealand contract advisors yesterday. Whilst they are keen and welcome ASK's ideas around providing the increased service, there does not appear to be much transport funding available. However, they will be discussing over the next couple of weeks and both agree and appreciate that ASK is trying to improve the service provision for the good of Kapiti, and it is better to support what we have rather than change the provider. They did ask if Council would be willing to support ASK with some funding and or supporting a contribution to the provision of 2 new minibuses. Perhaps we need local support to buy the vehicles with 2 or 3 key sponsors. Number 3, we have submitted a submission to Greater Wellington Council in support of the broader submission from KCDC, suggesting that an on-demand bus service from Kapiti to Wellington Hospital would enable residents with limited mobility to access medical care independently. On-demand buses were trialled in Tawa and Pororua for 2 years, very successfully. And number 4, Wellington Free Ambulance have indicated that they are interested in having a discussion to understand the transport needs of our community. I will be starting this conversation with Ratna Attila, Head of Transport Patient Services, on Thursday morning. Number 5, there are a number of ex-Kapiti carer drivers, volunteers, happy to continue driving Kapiti residents to medical appointments. They are doing this independently, and there is a list of their names and contact details accessible through retirement villages or by calling me. And lastly, I attended the Transport Forum for Older Persons here yesterday, a presentation on alternative forms of transport and services available, followed by a gold card bus tour of Paraparaumu and environs. Greater Wellington Council presented information on the Snapper and mobility cards, followed by User Bus, who have the Metlink bus contract on the Kapiti coast. There were a couple of complaints, lack of bus shelters, and why wasn't there a bus service in Otahanga, which the Greater Wellington Council team were going to follow up on. But overall, people were happy with the service and the timetable offered. It was good to see such a large number of attendees and obvious users of Metlink. Thank you. That's it.
Crikey, Ian would have even been gotten going at this stage. No disrespect intended, of course. Fantastic. Could you just, the last point that you were talking about, this, was it a workshop with Greater Wellington?
Yeah, here.
When was that?
Here, yesterday.
It was yesterday?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was really good.
There's no bus. Okay. And I guess one of the things you said that there's 2 comments that came out of that were a lack of shelters and lack of bus to Otahanga. I'm sure there'd be also the lack of bus to Otaki as well. But Greater Wellington are going to get back to you. You're going to get back to you?
No, they're going to get back to, gosh, I've just forgotten the man who ran it yesterday from council. Bruce. Yeah, Bruce. That's right.
So he's our council officer touchstone on this. I just think it'd be quite nice to capture that for a follow-up at some stage as well. Do they give any time frame for a follow-up? I'm assuming not. Okay, I might touch base with Bruce and just follow up on that, maybe bring back to our next meeting if there's been any progress in that space. As such, right, I'll open the floor to questions. I have a couple here, but is there anyone that has a question for Diana at all in regards to transport in the district? Nigel.
Thanks for that. I don't know. When Kapiti Carers closed, did anybody specifically pick up the work that they were doing?
No. As you all probably know, Kapiti Carers was set up 55 years ago, and the model for it is unsustainable, and we were struggling for many years to get younger volunteers to help. So no, there was some talk with some of the volunteers, and I've had several meetings with lots of them, but at the end of the day they agreed and realised, and that's why I said independently some drivers are continuing, just because they care about community. And so therefore they don't have anything to worry about with their insurance, because they're just taking one person, one car to an appointment.
And the other one was the KCDC contribution to the Ask vehicle. Were numbers bandied about?
Well, Kim will be sending her full report to Martin and to Gina, but this is all sort of still in negotiation. I think that the contract that exists now will still continue, which is just to provide funding for Monday to Thursday, morning appointments only. But this is an increase because Kapiti Carers has always had a close affiliation with Ask, and so it makes sense to get that to be increased, and then therefore that's a seamless process, as opposed to what Tim and Costley is also trying to do. To get another service set up, a small 6-van bus would be crazy. A, nobody would know about it, and B, 6 seats is not cutting the mustard. And I think it was just a bit of a fob off, really, because they're not going to do anything. But if they could have a contract that extended with Ask, that would be better. But in saying that, as I say, they always say there's no money. And so this is why she said, well, perhaps we could get information and help from the community to get 2 new minibuses.
Cool. And Kim's report, that's due soon?
Or she only had the meeting yesterday, and so I spoke to her very briefly, knowing that I was coming this morning, but she will send a full report to Martin and to Gina.
Cool. Thanks.
Lawrence.
Thanks, Diane. Appreciate your coming in today. Diana, sorry.
No worries.
Just a quick question. I know Greater Wellington's got their public transport long-term plan out at the moment for consultation. Is KHAG submitting into that?
That's what I mentioned, point 3.
Yep.
So our submission went in with a broader submission from KCDC.
Okay, cool, great. Fantastic. Sorry I missed that in
That's
your
all right.
presentation. Just the second question, you made reference to the on-demand trials in Porirua and Tawa for that. My understanding is Greater Wellington is not keen to continue those at all, and they consider them maybe not such a great result from their point of view. Do you cover that in your submission?
Yes, and from what we've researched, it was incredibly successful. There was a huge uptake from passengers, but again, they said they weren't going to be continuing it because of money. But I think that our presentation is obviously from a different area. There's many more people that would use it, and I hope that we get an opportunity to speak to the submission in May.
Great.
When it's
Awesome.
open. Yeah.
I appreciate all the work that's going into this space because it is an issue, this transport thing.
Yeah.
So
Thank
you for all your work in that space.
Thank you.
I just wanted to acknowledge Hirawai, who's now online, and our CEO for you just popped in the door there as well. Welcome, Darren. Kim.
Kia ora. Just a quick one. Your report, it's not on the LG Hub. Do we get a copy of the presentation and the stuff in it? Just the notes that you've...
I certainly can.
Yep, we can
Great,
circulate.
that
I
would
can
be great.
circulate that. If you send it.
And I don't know whether this is going to come in the report from Kim, but do you have the numbers of how many people in Otaki are using this service? The
Of-
transport service?
Which service?
Is it the Ask one, the one where they come pick them up?
No one from Otaki.
No one in Otaki
No.
uses it.
No, because Ask only goes as far as Waikanae.
So what is the plan for the Otaki area? then?
Well, there is a shuttle van that's used there, and that is run by St John.
Okay, yep, that's all. Thank you.
Rob.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Diane, for coming in. Diane, how many, just out of interest, how many volunteer drivers do operate with the service into Wellington Hospital on the coast at the moment?
Since Kapiti Carers is closed,
Yeah,
probably a dozen,
right.
yes.
Do you think that's obviously probably you need more?
It's actually working out really, really well. I think that initially, obviously, there was a huge shock in the community because Kapiti Carers have been going for so long. But gradually, I'm noticing many less calls in regard to it. And it's interesting how other things get picked up. There are a lot of families and friends that live around the area, and so they've picked up that role as well. And interestingly too, some of the retirement villages, I know Parkwood specifically, have set up something of their own.
Yes.
And this is what should have happened all along.
Sure.
The large Rymans, the Somersets, they should have had something in place in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of started a thought process that there should be something more in each community to help with that transport.
Oh, well, thanks for that. And the Otaki area, of course, probably needs a bit more advertising out there for assistance
Absolutely.
from the locals. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
address that. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Kathy,
Could I just please make a comment?
of course you can.
Diana, you said that Health New Zealand said there was no money for transport. Well, then I'd better get on to Tim Costley because they need to bring their health services up to Kapiti then, don't they, if they can't get us to Wellington? So I think, yeah, we should be putting more pressure on as a council
Absolutely. And
to, yeah.
initially, when I had my meeting with Tim Costley, he was incredibly supportive, and he is supportive
Yeah,
to as much as he can. And he did go and see them straight away and have this conversation. But long term, that's the thing, isn't it? As you know, Kim and I have been going and
Yeah.
talking to Health New
Yeah.
Zealand for 10 years.
yeah, we need some action.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
they know that it's not really a big task for them to come up to the Kapiti Coast because they're already going to Kinnaparu and they deliver things to the Kapiti Health Centre on a
That's
daily
right.
basis.
They do, yeah,
And the buses are half empty.
yeah. Oh, let's try and sort it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Just checking online. No. Good question from my end, Diana, is look, Tim's got involved in this mix, and you're right. I think he's being very proactive. But is there something that's sort of bringing this together as a conversation? There's not sort of cross purposes, so to speak. Is there a sort of uniformed approach here?
Yes, there is, because the main players being Kim from ASK and Kapiti Health Advisory Group are all in communication with each other. Along with Kim has had conversations with Tim. Everything is being communicated as to what is happening.
And fully respecting the amount of time that you've been in this space and the challenges in Otaki, is there a link that you have as part of your conversations to Otaki? Like you've got yourself, you've got Kim down this way, but do we have a sort of a touchstone up that way?
No, we don't.
Kim,
We don't.
I do wonder whether there could be some look at who would potentially be a touchstone for the transport conversation up that way, or we can have a chat to some people this end as well. Yeah, that'd be much appreciated. I think that's, and the Wellington Free Ambulance, they're sort of in the mix as well, because they've come
Yeah,
through.
I guess what I've called it really for this year is I've had to pivot onto different parts of transport, but also that we're at the moment using the scattergun approach, because I've reached out to a number of organisations, St John's included, and Wellington Free, as you know, has become involved in some of the areas and spaces that we're in, and I became aware that it was time for me to make a contact with Ratner, who I will be speaking to on Thursday. So that's just an initial conversation just to explain to her what our community is about, what we need, and for her to go back and discuss that. As to whether it's something that can happen, I don't know at
Okay.
all.
Well, look, great to see you pushing forward on that. And that's who was the gentleman that attends the attends the KHAG
Yes,
meetings
that's
from
the
Wellington Free.
the new guy.
I won't put you on the spot with his name.
Yeah.
I should know it as well. And he'll be obviously involved in that.
Gina?
I think it's Dylan.
Yes,
Dylan, yeah.
Dylan.
That's
Yes,
right.
That's
And
right.
he's involved in that. He's in that
Yes.
loop as well. Again, just
Yes,
to make sure
yes.
people
Well,
know.
he's been to a couple of the KHAG meetings.
Yep.
And that's where I suddenly thought, let's get on with that as well.
Okay.
Because they do patient transfer.
Yes. Yes. And obviously the diversion aspect as well just
Yeah.
minimises the amount of trips to hospital.
Exactly. And even if it was a case of them bringing patients back from Wellington Hospital that have been discharged, that would be something that they could do since they're already in Wellington and coming up to the Kapiti Coast.
And if there was to be a coordination point from that sort of scenario, because there always needs to be a coordination point, would that sort of potentially sit with Kim at Ask as such?
Well,
Yeah, in a perfect world.
yeah, I think it's all evolving. In a perfect world,
Yeah.
if ASK was to pick up the contract, the extended contract, then they would have 2 new vehicles.
Yeah.
And then there's the possibility of Kapiti carers, volunteers, doing the backwards and forwards from homes to a base at for instance, at the Kapiti Health Centre.
Yep.
And then the buses could go in and out just from the Kapiti Health Centre, and volunteers could be coming from outside of that.
Okay. Seems like there's a lot of stars potentially aligning, and it could be an
Yes.
opportunity to be striking quite strongly from the different angles that we potentially have as well to try and push that Kaupapa forward as such. Okay. Nigel, you have a...
Yeah, it was an observation really. We don't have a transport portfolio here at council, which I think is a deficit. I think we should have one. To be constantly raising these issues and a go-to person on that. I just wonder to some extent that's been surrendered, particularly in public transport, to Greater Wellington, but they seem to be missing in action as well. So have you had any political discussions with Greater Wellington?
No.
No. I'm happy to point out that that's a massive hole for Kapiti, actually, and needs to be sorted. Even if Greater Wellington could be coming to the party with that ask situation, it's effectively doing what they should be doing, anyway. So, but I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, no, definitely.
I think we have a gap here for transport as well. So that's something that we should be looking at too.
Thank you.
But thanks.
Yes, I definitely agree with you, Nigel. We've been putting a bit of time and effort and energy into the polyclinic concept. I think that's sort of on the way and ticking along. And so I think it's due time to put some focus into this. Not that there hasn't been,
Yeah.
but it's just been a very difficult road. Pardon the pun.
Literally.
With regards to trying to get some result here, and this is quite a critical thing, and it's been an area that's been very poorly addressed by Health New Zealand and Greater Wellington with regards to that. And we're growing, we've got that better connection,
Yes.
but there's also the glaring thing here is Otaki as well, which needs to swing both
Yes.
ways into up north or down into Wellington. But we need to start tying those conversations together. So I take your point on board, Nigel, with regards to that maybe it's time for us to try and step up a bit more in this space as well. And taking on point that we've got a submission going into Greater Wellington at the moment, maybe it might be worthwhile if we are speaking to that, which I'm pretty sure we're going to be looking at doing, that we emphasise this as an issue that we have here. But then it's not just emphasising as an issue; it's the follow through aspect.
Absolutely.
Looking for some results as well. Excellent. Well, look, I've got no more questions here. Dinah, thank you very much for your presentation. That was very informative and much appreciated.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Right. We're just going to hand around some documents to the table at the moment. We've got some deputations coming up with regards to the terms of reference. I just asked council officers to print off copies of the terms of reference since we have the deputations here. It's just there was an assumption made that we will, because it's sitting in the council paper this coming Thursday, that we'll just reference that. But for ease of purpose, I've asked for a copy just to be quickly printed off, which I think we as councillors will appreciate also for Thursday, in regards to if we're talking to the terms of reference from the deputations, we've actually got it sitting here in front of us as such. So our first deputation, 6.2, is a Kapiti Disability Advisory Group. We have Joanna Dacom as chair. If you could feel free to make your way up to the table. It's all family up here. Joanne, you've done a fantastic job in the Kapiti Disability Advisory Group scope up and to get us to this point. And it's great that we've been able to capture things. Council officers have been able to facilitate the legitimising of the groups with regards to, you know, engaging with council and all the processes around that as well, but also giving you ways to get report back for the advocacy that you're doing as well and help put some structure around that. So looking forward to your presentation.
Well, I'll start off, Mitch. My name's Joanne. Yeah, don't know where the Joanna came from, but yeah, I'm Joanne. I'm autistic and deaf, although I don't use sign language. I was actually denied access to sign language when I was at school, didn't actually have access, and as an adult I've had surgeries and I wear hearing aids that help a lot. I just thought I'd give you a little bit of an introduction. I'm the current chair for the Kapiti Disability Advisory Group, but I'm also actually really heavily involved in the disability community as a whole, not just in Kapiti, but almost nationwide. So I was president for Disabled Persons Assembly, which is a nationwide organisation that does disability advocacy around systemic change for disabled people. I'm chair of Disable, which is a relatively new disabled-led organisation that works towards the prevention of family and sexual violence against disabled people, because we find that many of the mainstream organisations have no idea how to handle a person with disability, and disabled people are often left in really unsafe situations. They can't just leave home if that person's their main support person. I'm an autistic researcher. I also serve on the board for Autism New Zealand. I serve on an autism oversight committee for Auckland University. I am the co-chair for Taki Wātanga Autism Living Guidelines Group, which makes recommendations about best practice in a whole lot of areas for autism. I'm on the governance for My Life, My Voice, which is another disabled-led organisation that brings people disabled people together across Aotearoa to look at how best to support disabled people, whether that's funding, whether it's programs, just a whole range of tools. I'm a member of the Autism Research Clinic out of Canterbury University. I'm on the governance for the Kapiti Community Health Network, and I'm also a member of KHAG, the group that have just presented. I'm also on the board for an Australian-based autism organisation called ASAN, and I'm on the Disability Voices group for the Ministry of Education, and I'm also on what's called the Central Bank Digital Currency Forum, providing an accessibility viewpoint. So quite extensive. So been very conscious of that in my role, that one of the things that's needed is to grow disabled people leadership. And so here's a picture of some of us, actually probably less than half of us. Some people were away when we took this photo. We currently have just 9 members. And so we're looking, if we go to slide 2, we're looking to update our terms of reference, because they haven't been updated since 2017 when the group was first formed. And we've done this through the opportunity for individual members, current members, to talk to the council team, to myself as well, things that they want to change. We've had interviews, individual interviews, we've had workshops, and we've had the opportunity to provide feedback on the draft terms of reference. So that's been really open for disabled people to contribute to that process. All right, if we go to the next slide. So, our role is to advise council on the planning, funding, managing and delivering services for people with disability, but our particular focus is around access, equity and inclusion. And we want to be able to hear more voices. We want to have more accessible options and clearer processes for engagement with a clear direction. At the moment, it's kind of not really clear for the disability group members about what we should be doing, and also it's probably not clear for council how to engage with our group. And we want to acknowledge that the Disability Advisory Group plays an important role in recognising that accessibility is not just the responsibility of government. It's recognising that actually local councils have a role to play and to improve accessibility for local communities. Our next slide is where we're at. At the moment, we're going to have new terms of reference. We're going to have a deputy chair, and that might not seem much, but it's a big move for our group because we've never had one, and we see this as an opportunity for others to step up and train as deputy chair, part of that succession planning, and also to grow leadership, disabled leadership. Like I'm probably more than qualified, but actually we want to give that opportunity to others and support them in the best way possible. We want to increase our membership size. We have 9. Quite often you'll have 1 or 2 away. So we're looking at more of a group of around 10 to 12 people. And more diversity of impairments. We have got quite a range of impairments, but for example, we have no sign language user on the group, for example. We have no one from Otaki, and we see that as an oversight. So this is an opportunity to increase that diversity. It's also really exciting to be able to offer better training and support for those members who do come and give their time, they're volunteers, but we have an obligation to train them up so that they can receive the best support possible to do their role. We're after people who are connected with their disability communities as well, so that we get a wider range of input into the advice that we give to council. The guidelines on how to engage, there are no guidelines on how to engage with our group and for us to engage with council, and we feel that the new terms of reference will give us that. And the group will be for people with lived experience with a disability. We did have an organisation as part of our group. However, they tend to speak for disabled people rather than just support disabled people. Disabled people are quite capable of determining what they need. We don't need somebody else talking for us. So our next steps, well, obviously we've come here, but this Thursday the Connected Communities team, some of whom are here today, they'll present to council the new terms of reference. A lot of work's gone into that, so I'd like to acknowledge Noria and her team, Emma, and I'm not sure if Monique's been involved as well, but it's a big document. There's a lot of work gone into that. Then in April we'll look to recruit, and we've done a lot of thinking about that recruitment process, about how to make it accessible for people. Noria is going to have some public meetings, make yourself available at libraries to help people, just to try and reduce those barriers for disabled people to apply. And then in May we hope to have some interviews and an induction process, which we've actually never had. I never had an induction process, so it'd be good so that we have a clear understanding about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we should be doing it. And then hopefully in June we'll have our first new advisory group meeting, under a new sort of system. So open it up for questions.
Fabulous. Thank you for that, Joanne. That's my fault. Sorry, for some reason I heard Joanna somewhere sometime and it just stuck in my head. So it even says Joanne on my document, so it's not a count. So I will make a point of, because there's nothing wrong with getting that name wrong. Thank you very much for that. I will open the floor up to some questions. Johnny.
I was going to ask what you did in your spare time, but but you mentioned that as far as access, it wasn't just a central government sort of role, and it was local government. I mean, I was just wondering how we actually fare as a council in that access, or how well we do, or not.
Well, I think actually Kapiti actually does really well when I think about some of the other councils that have nothing. So some councils, for example, Porirua Council, refused to have a disability advisory group for some reason, not sure why. There is a new group that's recently formed there called a Community Action Group under the banner of Ferns, which I think stands for Foundation for Equity and Inclusion sort of thing, but they formed their own group and they've been trying to liaise with their council, but the Porirua Council has nothing. Horowhenua Council has a disability advisory group. Wellington City Council does. I think this group has been one of the more effective ones that I've seen. This council has been in some ways quite proactive. For example, when the government brought in the rule about new builds didn't need car parking, this council recognised, hold on a minute, we still want to have some mobility parking, so they encouraged our group to make a submission. So there's a lot of thinking that goes on with this council that I really want to acknowledge. I mean, everybody can always do better, but I feel like this council does well compared to some. Yeah, it's a big job.
It certainly is. Nigel?
Thanks for that, Joanne. I'm just wondering, given we've got about 3,500 new dwellings that are going to be constructed on the Kapiti coast, so and a lot of those kind of almost like group communities. So, do you guys do you have conversations with developers, or do you think it would be helpful if council, just in terms of recognising needs for a new community, because effectively they're starting new communities, so it's a chance to get it right, isn't it? For
It is. We don't
disabilities.
have meetings with developers. I guess I see that as more a responsibility of council. What I don't know is how much accessibility comes into it. Like, for example, developers won't necessarily make their homes accessible. Not even Housing New Zealand did that. So if the government isn't doing that, what's the incentive for private developers to do that? It's a big area, it's a big challenge. For example, those new ones on Kapiti Road have stairs, so that instantly, the corner of Kapiti Road and the old State Highway 1, if you were in a wheelchair, you're instantly excluded. Yeah, so housing is a big issue across the nation, across the motu.
Yeah, and perhaps we can raise this also with the housing trust that's been set up, so that I'm sure they're already aware of disability issues, but just in terms of what they're driving.
Yeah, no, that would be good. We definitely need more accessible homes. Several of our group members are in wheelchairs and they're limited where they can live.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Just acknowledging Michael Moore has just turned up online there, so welcome to the club, Michael. Lawrence?
Good morning. Thanks, Joanne. I appreciate all the work that you do in so many different aspects. I think I was just tired listening to your your list of everything you're involved in. One of the things I'm conscious of is the variety of impairments that exist in the disability sector with people. And we're talking about this advisory group having maybe 10 people. It's not going to represent all of the possible impairments, I guess. So how do we ensure that we're touching on the bits? Because the bits that we'll miss, because we'll miss some, right?
So one of the things that I personally do is I try to engage with other community groups, which is why I mentioned that list of things that I'm involved with. It's so that I stay connected to other disabled people who may not have the same impairments that I do. For example, I visited People First, that's a group that's run by people with intellectual disabilities. I visited them when they hold their meetings at the Impact Church, I think. So I visit them. I stay connected with other disabled people through other organisations that exist in Kapiti. So Ferns have recently set up a community action group and I go to their meetings when I can. So I'm touching base with different disabilities. I think that's really critical because, like you said, it can easily be missed. But also that's another reason why we want to extend the group, because even if we have 10 to 12 people, you'll never get everybody, but a lot of disabled people have more than one impairment, which it kind of helps because they can bring those different perspectives. But there is an obligation on people. We hope that members will connect with other disability community groups so that we get that wider perspective, that we're not just bringing our own personal viewpoint, but we're bringing a wider perspective to that advisory group.
Great.
In the terms of reference, we've also got in there that from time to time, if we see a gap, we can opt someone in. So it's, if we notice that there's a gap and we need to fill it, we'll look for that. Or if someone comes and they're interested and it's a disability that we haven't heard of, we're not going to turn them away.
Yeah.
Awesome. The other thing for me, probably the biggest thing I see in our community around disability is ignorance, or just a straight up lack of knowledge about the realities of people with disabilities. So, like, for example, I get regular complaints about traffic lights that are outside our facility here on Rimu Road, because people don't see the point of them. Yet I speak to people with disabilities and they say it's been the best thing that we've done in council around our town centre. So my response to people when they complain is, have you considered the fact that older people like the safety, people with disabilities, it's easier to get across, and everyone stops, thinks and goes, I just, how do we increase awareness, I guess, across our community of people with disabilities and the realities of council needing to make decisions that include, I guess, adapting what would normally be designed for an able person to include the ability for those with physical and intellectual. How do we raise the profile of that? Do you have?
We've started a little bit. We need to do more, but we've made some videos about some of the local issues that disabled people face, and we've got the opportunity to make more videos, but we'll do that once we've got our new forum, if that's what the group wants to do. So we made a series of videos, for example, around the wheelie bin issue, where people leave them out in the middle of the pavement, nobody can get in. And I can be really good about putting that back, but it's just too bad the people who collect the wheelie bins don't put them back where they got them from.
Right.
And they leave them in the middle of the road. But I guess I'm very conscious too. I attend another meeting that I didn't actually mention on there. The can't think what they call it. It's a council. It's another advisory group around that meets around cycleways, bridleways, and walkways. So those are often considered as part of development. And so we often have input in that, and so that gives us a chance to talk about accessibility in that sense. It is a real challenge. It's an ongoing challenge to get people to lift up their game around ignorance. I think sometimes people learn more when they're suddenly affected. You know, if you suddenly break your leg and all of a sudden you've got difficulty getting around, it's a real eye-opener for those people. So I had that with Trevor Mallard. He didn't see the need for any accessibility till he broke his leg, and suddenly he needed someone in Parliament to open all the doors for him, because he couldn't even open the doors. So I think sometimes people's personal experiences can often change their mindset. But it's that constant talking about it as well, making it normal to talk about disability, not something that has to, disability isn't a dirty word. So I think making the most of those opportunities to discuss disability.
That's great. Well, appreciate what you're doing in this space.
Yeah.
The other thing for me, we have a regular contributor into our council meetings who is disabled in our community. And he challenges us all the time about what we're doing for disabled people, particularly in access into this space. So I appreciate the work you're doing and the advice that you will give us as we continue to pursue making things more accessible around here. So thank you.
And I meant to add, we gave advice to Coastlands, not that they acted on it fast enough, but their new WINS building, for example, had no accessible way of getting in. So then they built a path, but it was after it opened, so potentially people could have been financially penalised, not being able to get in. And then they still haven't fixed up their crossing across the entrance in and out of Coastlands, the drive entrance, because if you were to rely on those yellow tactile dots, you would end up in the Mediterranean car park because there's no, Tutorial's car park, because there's no there's no yellow dots on the other side, and no directional tactile things to tell people where to go, nor is there a diamond on the road. And that was an oversight by council, not completing that, ensuring that that was done as part of revocation. So we've had to go at Coast and say that's got to be fixed.
I hope you had a go at council as well. Cause,
Yeah. So,
got to
it's on council
share the love, you see. Share the love.
And I should say it's on council to follow through. For example, if someone has a mobility park shown on their plans, go and make sure it's actually put in, because I went to Sultan Wood the other day at Waikanae, and they said, this is our mobility park. Well, you wouldn't have guessed, because it's not marked at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess there's an obligation on council staff to follow through if things are meant to be, accessible and they're not.
I look forward to the new terms of reference and an increased profile for your group, Joanne, and the others that come on. So
thank you.
Hold us to account. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Rob?
Thanks, Joanne. I'd just like to acknowledge the work you and your group are doing. It's fantastic. Now, I've been away on leave for a couple of weeks, and I listened to National Radio twice. You were on National Radio a couple of weeks ago, and it was fantastic. And this morning I heard a government, an MP, do a bit of a rant about how they're going to repeal the RMA Act, and a developer can do what he wants in the land because he owns it, and as long as it doesn't affect adjacent sites, it's okay. And I think that your proactive work is going to be incredibly important here. And this council have been very proactive with in implementing an urban design panel. We're sort of into several steps along the way, but we're going to have to watch the facilities and amenities off the buildings that we're allowing to be built here. They're here for an awful long time, and you've referred to one development already which is bereft of amenity, doesn't have misses out on car parks even. They're having difficulties selling them, but this is actually not going to improve unless we take a proactive steps with the developments and work proactively to have these facilities implemented. Being in architecture for 40 years now, it's becoming more and more important to have the steps the right height, ramps the right angle, not just token gestures, the right slope, and amenities, disabled car parking and toilet facilities, for instance, have to be implemented, and we're missing out at the moment. And thank you so much for the work you're putting into it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just as concerned by the fast track legislation where council will have no input.
That's right. Yeah, so we've got to really get this urban design panel working, don't we? And you would be good to be on that. Thank you. Have you got time?
Well, look, Rod, the great thing is if we've got strong advisory groups, the urban panel can lean on them, and they can, and that's really the whole point here, isn't it? Is you're putting structure around these groups so they can participate in a constructive manner rather than just kicking around, hoping that things are going to happen. There's actually there's report back options. There's looking at that, like you said, where's that follow through? So it's capturing those things and making sure that follow through happens as well, isn't it? Cool, thanks, Rob. I've got a couple of questions I wouldn't mind. Just check online. No, everything's pretty good there. It's a pretty generic question here, Joanne, but have you been happy with the process that's got you to this point?
Yes, it's been very open, very transparent. The group have been the group have sort of participated, but also the team at council have been really open to suggestions. So yes, it was a really good, robust process. So I really do thank the council team for that.
Excellent, thank you for that. And you feel that what's being put in place is a good setup for you to succeed moving forward?
Yes, I think it's long overdue. Our last terms of reference were 2017, and then COVID hit, and so everything sort of ground to a halt. So I think that the new terms of reference are going to be robust, but they'll also be enduring. They'll be able to last, and I think that was the key thing. They're sustainable, and they can be tweaked if necessary. But I think that when I looked at them, I thought, these would last for a long time. They're really good terms of reference.
Excellent. I've got a couple of other questions that are more about the terms of reference themselves. First one, it's actually to council officers. Code of conduct that's going to be put in place, is the idea that this will land at the same time as the, shall we say, group goes live?
The group doesn't go live till June.
Yeah.
So by that time, we would be expecting that there's a code of conduct, but there's more information that will be coming your way around that.
Yeah, I think it'd be quite important to have those sort of land at the same time, or before. Well, or before, but at least landing at the same time would be great. One of the questions I had was around the two-year term as such. Do you think that's long enough? I would always think go through an induction process. 2 years can skip by pretty quick. What was the sort of reasoning behind a 2-year term rather than, say, a 3-year term or something like that?
Well, although it's a 2-year term, you can simply apply to stay on. So it was also to avoid the situation where somebody might want to leave, but then they feel compelled to stay. For example, the last the last chair before me is still on the committee. They were chair and then they've stayed on, but they've been on for a long time. Want to be able to give people the right to sort of feel like they can leave, but without feeling like they're somehow letting the group down. Also, you want to avoid somebody hogging the seat, if you like. You know, if they're not actually being effective, then you know, they might have done their dash, then there's that opportunity for them to step down, but maybe new blood to come on. So it's carefully to weigh it up. But the thing is, we have been really careful to say, hey, you can reapply. You know, just I think it's really important to have some sort of process, and whatever term you pick, it'll never be the right one. I mean, we've got a 3-year term of government, now they're wanting to have 4, so it doesn't matter how long you make those terms. It's really about what's the process around that when that term is up. Can they reapply? Can they not reapply?
Oh, look, I think that's an excellent response. I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's just why I was just touching base on that one. So someone who's sort of wanted to stay on after their 4 years, they can just reapply. So it's really just 2-year increments where there's actually a formal process in place to, shall we say, make sure that the organisation's ticking along in a proactive way.
Correct. And I think it's really important because you want a cohesive group, and if you find the group isn't cohesive, then you get to that end of the term, then you think, well, okay, maybe you can, you know, make the most of somebody stepping down.
Yep, no, that's great. On your membership here, it says membership of the disability group will have lived experience with a disability themselves, excluding parents of children with disabilities. I fully appreciating where you're coming from with this, but I would have thought that there would be actually quite a different perspective from a caregiver or a family member who's supported a person with a disability that could potentially feed very constructively into this equation.
Yeah, we've actually got a parent on the group. In fact, I'm a parent myself, so I have a disabled adult son, and I also have an autistic grandson as well. So it doesn't exclude parent. We would look to have at least a parent on that group.
I would suggest that we look at rewording that slightly because it does actually have the word exclude here.
I think, is it on the terms of reference?
That is on the terms of reference under membership,
I think
page 2.
if you go down a bit, I think it says we aim, there can be people who have children, dependents with disabilities in there. Does it say that?
Well, in one instance you're saying exclude them, then in one instance you're saying include them. So I just think it I'm just pointing it out, you know, that's we just might need to just wordsmith that a
We
little
will
bit.
clarify that because,
That'd be great, thank you.
I guess what we also want to do was to ensure that we didn't end up with a group that was all parents and no disabled people. But
I hear exactly what you're coming from because, you know, the lived experience is very, very different from the supportive experience, but they both
have a place.
And I guess a person who's living the experience doesn't have the experience of the supportive person, which can be just as impactful on their day-to-day life as well. And there'll be more awareness around potentially the things that they struggle with regards to being out in the community with a person with challenges as such. So I think it's there'll be quite a bit of rich information there as well. It would be good to have it included, but fully appreciate we want to have a committee here that's got different people, shall we say, with different challenges that can bring a different perspective into the mix, so that you're getting a fuller picture as such.
Yeah, and like I say, current group members can apply to be on and would be encouraged to apply to stay on. And one of those is a parent of a teenager with disabilities. So yeah, we definitely will look to retain that.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you for those answers. That's pretty much what I had to say. Any other questions at all? I just wanted to wrap it up, Joanne, by saying, and I've said it before, mainly at this stage in regards to my involvement with the Kapiti Health Advisory Group, we're very blessed in this district to have some very, very experienced people that are very well connected in these spaces and have done huge mahi over the years. And just listening to you with regards to the experience you have and what you bring to this equation. And we're, very, very blessed to be having the people in our community that are prepared to put their hand up and work in these spaces for others in the community as well. So thank you very much for the work that you guys are doing. I'm absolutely stoked that we as a council are able to put a bit of structure around this so that we can actually you can be getting the outcomes that you're looking for. It's all about outcomes, really.
Yeah.
This is all great, but we want to see outcomes. And I know council officers want to see outcomes and want to make sure they're being inclusive with regards to the planning, et cetera, that they're doing as well.
Yeah.
So having a good groups that they can engage with that bring different perspectives is very, very, very useful to council as such. So just thank you for all the hard work you've been doing in this space. And if you've got any comments you'd like to finish off with at all?
No, just that, you know, you're lucky that you've got a good team. I mean, for a long while there was only one person in the team. They left and then it was like, okay, there's no team, but now the council have, you know, rebuilt, got a really great, awesome team. And it's about us working together collaboratively, to, you know, for those outcomes.
Yep, and it's certainly acknowledging council officers. It's been great seeing this all come together the way that it has. Excellent. Thank you, Joanne. We look forward to seeing the group hit the ground running. Righto. And here's a regular. Kevin, if I could ask you to come to the table, Kapiti Older Persons Council. Yep, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I think what I'd like to do is just give a bit of history and background to this.
Excellent.
Then we'll move on to bring us up to where we are at present. Now, I became involved in the Older Persons Council 5 years ago. And at those, when I attended those meetings, there would have been 20, 30 people sitting around this table. I really didn't think the structure was right in those days, actually. It was a lot of individuals coming along talking about their individual issue, whether it was a crack in the pavement outside their home. And the chairperson was doing all the work, quite frankly. And then COVID came along and COVID ruined the OPC. It met about 3 times in the space of 2 years. So we came out of COVID, and 18 months ago, I was asked to put my name forward for the chair. I made it plain to people that if I was elected as chair, I would want to see some changes within the structure of the group. I didn't think it was strategic enough. It was very Pākehā Paraparu-centric. It needed some geographical representation and some ethnic representation. There was an election, actually, and first time in living memory that there was an election in the OPC, actually, which I obviously won, and I think I won, anyway. And that gave us, well, certainly gave me a mandate for change. And shortly after I'd been in the chair for a couple of months or so, Claire Rewe and Claire was then the Noria person, she was the support staff. We put together a survey. We asked people on the committee why they came to the committee. What was their reason for attending these? And there was about 40 odd people on the email system, although they weren't attending, but they were on the email system. About 30 odd replied. About 50% of them basically said they came along to the meeting. They phrased with different words, different ways, but basically because they were lonely, which is a symptom of a bigger problem, actually. And there was another group that came that sort of said that they didn't see it being relevant. Yeah, and that sort of set the scene, if you like, because then council too, and Noria and Emma, who have done, I'd have to say, a great job on this, we got together and decided that we need to have this discussion about changing the terms of, developing terms of reference and changing the council. It needed to be more strategic, needed to have a greater representation, both ethnic and geographical, in there. And we think we've about achieved that. The process started last October, November. We're having discussions and talking amongst the group there. Set up a consultation process where there were interviews or people could make submissions. I made a written submission, so I didn't get involved in the actual consultation with Emma and Noria, because I didn't want to influence people, but there was quite a bit of feedback came through there on the issues too. And they interviewed, well, basically anybody who wanted to be interviewed, really. So there was present members, past members. I understand they interviewed a couple of councillors too. All that came together to develop the terms of reference. And we had the workshop and we developed, 2 or 3 drafts of the terms of reference. And can we have the next slide up? And then this is what we decided that the OPC should actually be. It should be a voice for the older people in all of the community there. And I advise on ideas on council projects. Council officers have come along to the OPC and presented stuff about what they're doing, and there's always been a bit of discussion. But even when we give advice, one of the things I found particularly frustrating was there's never ever any feedback. I come along here and talked about things, and then, as far as that, from my perspective, it's gone into the ether. So there's been no feedback on that, and I think that's important well, it's important for any group. If you give feedback to someone, if you say something, giving advice, you need the feedback. We will be supporting the age-friendly approach. People may know that I'm on the age-friendly reference group at present. The group is overseeing a number of projects. Once those projects are completed and finished, we think it's probably appropriate that the age-friendly becomes within the, it won't be the OPC, it will be an advisory group. So we're dropping the word council out of that. By doing that, so it makes a clear distinction between the OPC and the advisory group. So it's a clear cut-off and a clear stuff. And so we're acting as a conduit too between that broader community, and that's where the geographical representation comes in. I think one of my big concerns in the past is whenever I've come here and talked about issues for older people, I've been really nervous about someone asking me, what do people in Otaki or Paikakariki think? The answer would be, I don't know. Because it doesn't represent, it needs to actually represent those communities in there. We've got the next one. The new terms of reference are coming up here on Thursday. I will come in on Thursday, but I need to be away by 11 o'clock. I have to be in Palmerston North. So the members, the members we're looking at will be connected to the community. We need them to sort of be strategic thinkers and think about the community in there. We're looking probably at about 12 or 14. We've got no fixed number in there. I wouldn't mind if we had even a smaller number of that who actually know what they're doing and willing to do what they're doing, and then we can build it up over time if it takes that, rather than just appoint members for the sake of appointing members, so to speak. We are looking for that greater diversity in there and a clear purpose on those roles. Again, it's about that. What's the role of council? People need to on the group need to understand the role of council and the role that they're in, and how do we give feedback on a particular issue and receive feedback from council itself or council staff. And as I said, we're changing the name from the Older Persons Council to the Older Persons Advisory Group, because that would give a clear cut-off point. The last meeting of the Older Persons Council is on the 2nd of April. I got it right, didn't I? Yeah. And, so that's it, really. Questions, if you...
Well,
yeah.
Nope.
That's the timeline. Sorry about that. Yeah. Right. We're doing some recruitment, and I'll be involved in that. And there'll be interviews and inductions in there. The first meeting will be in June, but the first meeting will be about induction. How do we work together? How do we form consensus? So I would pick really that we'll be up and running July, maybe August, and fully up and running by then. That's the last one, isn't it?
Excellent. Thanks for that, Kevin. Look, we've discussed. I was the councillor on the Older Persons Council's last triennium. You know, fish out of water here, just like I was in the Capital Health Advisory Group. A bit more knowledgeable now, but we talked about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely fantastic seeing it come to fruition with regards to, you know, where we wanted to, really how we wanted to see the Older Persons Council be effective as such. So well done. That's absolutely brilliant. I'll open it up for questions. Nigel.
Yeah, just firstly, just as Joanne pointed out as well, the staff step up has been quite significant in a lot of these areas, so that's fantastic, I think. The Older Persons Council, or to be the Older Persons Advisory Group, so what's the relationship with Age Concern, Grey Power, and those other groups? Is this intended to be an umbrella group?
There is, there has been a debate in the past, if you like, about whether the OPC should be made up of representatives from other, like Grey Power, Concern, etc., or should it be a community based? I've never been a fan of the representation from other groups, quite frankly, because they come along and they're pushing their agenda. That's their job, you know, to push their agenda, whether it's Grey Power, Age Concern, or whatever. And I think you actually need the issues about the community in there. But we need to, when it's up and running, it needs to figure out what the relationship is going to be with those groups. Certainly we need to have a relationship within them, but what will it be? With some of those groups who talk about representation, yeah, they've got a far bigger issue or way of getting an agenda across by simply coming to this meeting and presenting their case. Yeah, it's a far better way, in my view, than going through the Older Persons Council, actually, in there. But yeah, there needs to be that relationship of how we do that. We need to figure out too our relationship with the Disability Advisory Group. I'd like to think we have a good working relationship with those, and with the health group too. But you know, we'll need to sit down and talk and work through those issues.
I guess the terms of reference will probably help define some of those areas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. Great.
Thank you, Nigel. Lawrence.
Fantastic, Kevin. Well done on holding the fort while all these changes and waiting for these changes to take place through COVID and everything else. It's great. The potential is that you may lose your job, though. Is that a fair
I've been asked to stand, haven't I?
It depends. It depends.
Yeah, I
doesn't it?
may do. Yeah. Someone better comes along. Yeah, that's yeah. I haven't been asked to stand. I'll point it if you like. I don't think I've not had the email yet to say I'm appointed. But I have been asked to be involved in the interviews. I'm sort of taking it for granted, actually. But
Oh, good.
it's a good point.
I think it would be. I think we would have a huge hole if you weren't in that space. Just from my perspective, anyway. So this is just a question, mainly for staff. I think we've got the last meeting of the OPC on the 2nd of April. From what you said, is there some sort of a celebration and thank you planned at that for? Really, you're closing down one group and then we're going to start another one. Is there an acknowledgement planned for that?
We plan to have some kai there, and just to thank, we will do a little bit of a acknowledgement there. And then we'll also, at that meeting, we'll be giving them application forms and the recruitment process as well, so encouraging people to
So inviting them to be part of the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
steps. Okay, that's
yeah,
good.
so that will all be together. Oh,
Can I just say? So first of all, the application group, if you know of anyone, please encourage them to do that. But on the last, you raised a good point on where I think one of the things that should happen, or hopefully should happen, someone should come along and thank the group for all the work they've done in the past. Yeah, it's.
I'll nudge council staff to take that to the mayor's office to ensure
well,
that.
maybe an elected member should come along too and thank them for the work that they're doing, because I don't want them going away thinking, we've
that
been
was a
made
waste of time.
redundant.
Yeah.
And so it's important that I do think it's important, minor detail, but it's an important one that they go away happy, so to speak.
Great, or acknowledged. So that's why I asked the question. Thank you. I'm sure there'll be many that are interested in that process. So I'll leave that to staff to facilitate that for us. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate all the work that you've done in getting us to this point.
Excellent. Thank you, Lawrence. And Sophie, just want to acknowledge you being at the table. Thanks for coming along. Really appreciate and great seeing you here. Please ask away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Joanne, as well. Appreciated your kōrero. You mentioned maybe not having as much insight into Paikakiriki needs or experiences of older people. We have got an amazing wahine, Sally, who's been coordinating over the 60. Oh, you have met Sally? I just wanted to make sure that connection was there, because she's doing a lot of work specifically on that piece around loneliness, isolation, and just, a sense of community, and created some really awesome opportunities on a regular basis for
She came along to the last OPC.
Cool. Okay, great. Yeah, glad she's on your radar, because I think she's a really... we'll send her the information too, but I just wanted to make sure you were connected. Cool, thank you.
Great, thanks, Sophie. Yeah, well, look, again, that's the sort of connections we want, especially with the Kapiti Health Advisory Group. You've got 5 key work streams now, 5 people that are very passionate about those topics. I think part of the key thing is having those people that are passionate about a topic that is very central to the issues that can then move forward, but do it within a structure. As such, that gives them the support for doing that as well. And again, we have all these people doing potentially different things around the community. It's nice for it to be tied together so that people aren't doubling up, or there's a point, I'm not going to say the one point of truth, but one point of contact that people can come to find out how they can link up with people that are doing a similar kaupapa in the area. So no, this is fantastic. I've got a few questions since everyone else has done their dash. I'll ask the generic ones that I asked Joanne. First of all, have you been happy with the process that has gotten you to this point?
I've certainly been happy with the process. Yeah, I think it has been open and transparent, and people have felt that they've been involved. People had the opportunity to be involved, and those that wanted to be involved, I think, got involved. Of course, you can give people the opportunity, but they don't want to be involved, and that's their choice to do that. But I think a lot of people did get involved in this.
Excellent. And what are your thoughts or feelings as we move forward? Do you think we're in a good place moving forward?
I think at present we're in a good position to do that. I do think the key, of course, is going to be the selection process and getting the people on board for that. And as I said, we're looking for 12 to 14, but if we don't make the 12 to 14, I'd prefer to have 8 or 10 people who are really interested, and then you build it up from there, rather than just appoint people for the sake of appointing people.
Oh, look, I fully agree. I don't think we don't have to make up numbers. I think as word circulates around the work that's doing, there's a bit more structure to it, that you might not get you'll be able to co-op people in during the term as well. So it's not necessarily a race to get the full number in. Better to have quality people than quantity, and look at that developing over the next couple of years. That's brilliant. Couple of questions here around the terms of reference, and I actually was going to bring these up. There's similar questions that apply to the disability group as well. It's around community attendance and councillor attendance as per your terms of reference. So there's no, in the terms of reference, pretty much all councillors are excluded from popping in unless they've got permission from the chair. Is that correct? That was my understanding of things. The same with community members. In other words, it's not an open forum, is it? Where community can come in. People have basically got to be vetted before they come in. Is that correct? That's what I read here.
Yeah, so in terms of community members, yeah, they would approach us and request that they could come along. And then in terms of elected members, obviously the appointed elected members are part of the group, but giving an indication, there's definitely an interest in having elected members come to the advisory group. So it's just a matter of making sure that if elected members are coming along and they want to talk about something, that Kevin and Noria know that's what's happening, and that we're working together to make sure that the meeting, which is a set period of time, is the most effective that it can be.
Sometimes the elected members, it's just actually being a fly on the wall and hearing what the group's got to say,
Absolutely.
just to keep a finger in the pie. But I appreciate also appreciate that it's nice to having a bit more of a structure, so that people know what's going on as well. Just a little bit concerned about the community, though. I just, open and transparency, free speech, all that sort of scenario. These are community groups, so if people do want to come and just observe what's going on, there should be the ability for them to be able to do that. Or should we say people shouldn't be blocked from doing it?
I think one of the issues we've got to have to figure out too is, how do we communicate with the community? Do we send out newsletters or whatever?
I think a great conduit for the Older Persons Council would be obviously through Grey Power, wouldn't it? And Age Concern, their databases would be quite significant. Hence the importance of those relationships, which hopefully they'll buy into because they'll see the importance of it. The only other thing I wanted to comment on is, and it's one of the things I'm not seeing here is a link to a committee. What I mean by that is that you're currently here presenting to the Social Sustainability Committee. Now, I fully appreciate that any of our advisory groups should be able to attend any meeting they want with regards to advising as such, but with regards to capturing recommendations or looking at how outcomes are followed through on, my personal view is that having linkage to a committee such as this one or the Environment Committee for groups is can be quite an essential part of the process. Because I know one of the aspects that the groups have had issue with in the past is how do they track their outcomes? How do they bring recommendations to the table, and how do these get followed up on? And my personal view is that that's the part of the reason of this committee and the corresponding Environment Committee is for those groups to be able to have that pathway to come in on a regular basis if they like, do a deputation, present back to us. We're doing that with the Kapiti Health Advisory Group at the minute. It keeps this table engaged with those groups. So I note here that the only linkage I'm seeing here is 6-month report back to council as such, which is great, but I think there needs to be a little bit more of a relationship in regards to how they work. I appreciate that the committees themselves might prefer not to be linked to a specific committee as such, but I just wanted to I'll be reaching out now and saying I'd be very keen to see the relationship formed in a way that's constructive for either of these groups as they move forward, whatever that might look like. Don't know if there wants to be any comment on that at all. Lawrence, have you got some comment?
I want to comment.
Yeah, okay, Lawrence. Yeah.
We've got an account. I don't really want to debate this as a deputation.
Yep.
But from my perspective, we have a council-appointed member of this advisory group who becomes the conduit for their role as the conduit for issues that they feel need to be brought back to council. That's their role. I think we need to probably clarify that a little bit and
Strengthening
make
that
sure that we don't remove the role of the appointed member to these groups, because it's pointless them being there if they're not actually the conduit, and we're saying we want that to a committee.
That's why I wanted to discuss.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
From my
it does. That's
perspective, I
why,
just-
it's good to discuss it. It's good to discuss it in a deputation forum. That's a very valid point. Because Kathy, you're next to Mike, to acknowledge with regards to your role as a councillor-elect on both these committees. But it is strengthening that pipeline, shall we say, with regards to how that works. We haven't really structured it that way. So, more than happy for that to be an approach if that's what we agreed to do.
Can I just, I know there's been some debate about this, and I'm leaving it to, I'm keeping out of that debate. I'll leave that to you to sort out. The only criteria, the only issue I had was I don't want to be reporting, saying the same thing twice to both this group and the council group.
And that's why for me it's just, it was something that was
So,
lacking.
those things need to be sorted out too.
No, I bring it up because it's just a process that needs to be put in place, and whatever it is we agree on, I'm happy with that. Everyone's got to be happy with it, and that sounds like what you're suggesting there, Lawrence, is actually the way it's meant to happen as well. So all we're really doing is strengthening what is the correct process. Kathy.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank and commend the staff on doing responsibilities of an elected member, because anybody new coming in knows their actual role and what they're there for and what they're meant to be doing. So I just wanted to commend and thank staff for doing that.
Yep, no, that sounds, appreciate that, Kathy. And again, I'd like to comment to council officers as well, the bit of the work that's been done here to bring this together, really, really appreciate it. I'm not going to say it's long overdue. We're just at a space and time, and it's great to see that we're putting things in place. We've gone through a restructure with council with regards to a bit of a jiggle on things. This is one of the things that's now fallen out with regards to processes on how we support our committees, our advisory groups as well. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Kevin. Anything else you'd like to add into that at all? I'll just check.
Just to like Noria and Anna have been doing all the heavy lifting on this.
Yep.
I'm glad to see that they've been acknowledged that.
And I'm just absolutely fantastic to see you here having this conversation, Kevin. It's been a while coming, but fantastic. Now, still not 100% landed, but by crikey, Charlie, I think in a few more months' time it'll all actually be there. Thank you very much. I was going to check with the table. I was going to run through to have Zeal come up now. We could do a quick coffee break now. What's the general thought? Yep. Do you guys like a cup of coffee before your presentation? Yep. Okay. Well, look, we'll have a 10-minute recess, which means we start about 11:05, and we can offer you tea and coffee as well. I do warn you, that's a damn strong coffee.